Here we go. Cindy's here.
Hey there.
Hey, Cindy.
Good to see you guys.
Hi, John.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Good, everybody's good.
Glad to hear.
All right, I've got 6. I'm going to start the webinar. Hopefully we see some attendees joining us as well. Here's Zach.
Hey, Zach.
Hey guys, good evening.
Evening.
Hi.
How are you?
Hey.
We're a late arriving group today, Zach.
Well, it's just 6.
Right.
And it's a beautiful spring day.
That's what I was saying. Everybody's playing hooky.
Still very bright out. Maybe we should start moving these meetings till 7 for the daylight savings time.
Yeah. Have a heart for your district manager.
And the
What's up, Andy? How are you?
good. How you doing, Zach?
I'm good. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Zach, when you are ready to start, just ask me to call roll.
Okay, I think we'll give everyone a couple minutes to
Yep.
That's not me.
Okay, Jeremy, let's call roll and we'll get this started.
You got it, Zach. Good evening, everybody. Committee members, I am going to call your name. When I do, please unmute yourself, acknowledge your name, and then mute yourself again. Board members, if you are not a member of the committee, I'm not going to call your name, but I am going to write your name down on the attendance sheet. So let's start with Zachary Jacy.
Here.
Thank you. John Garcia. Sandra Alfonso.
Present.
Thank you. Joan Body.
Here.
Thank you. Joseph Canale. John DeLuper.
Present.
Thank you. David Estrada.
Muted. I'm here.
Thank you. Roberto Martinez. Marilyn Melman. Gabino Morales.
Present.
Thank you. Gloria Rodriguez Navoa. Cindy Vandenbosch.
Present.
Katie Walsh. Zach, roll has been called.
Thank you, Jeremy. First, I'd like to welcome Gabino Morales, our newest member to the Transportation Committee. And thanks for joining us. Glad to have you. We have one presentation tonight from the MTA. We'll pass it over to Andy, when you can introduce your team, and you guys can take it away. Thank you so much.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Zach. Really appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. It's always good to be at CB7, whether it's live or virtual. My name is Andy Inglesby. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Assistant Director for Government and Community Relations for MTA, New York City Transit. My colleagues and I are here tonight to walk you through a very short presentation on the ADA construction of elevators at the 8th Avenue N station in the southbound direction. As you guys are aware, there are already existing ADA elevators for the Manhattan northbound platform. But as part of our 2020 to 24 capital program, we were able to get funding for the southbound platform. So we're very, very happy about that. That will make the entire station ADA accessible. Before I steal too much of my colleague Joe O'Donnell's thunder, because he's going to be walking you through the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Joe. And Jeremy, Zach, if Joe would be able to get screen sharing privileges, because he can share his screen.
That.
Okay. All right, so Joe, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll have a very short presentation, and we'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Joe, you can share your screen now.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Andy. And well, Andy gave you the whole presentation, so I guess we're done and I don't need to share, but no, it's not quite that short. Andy was trying to undersell. But again, my name is Joe O'Donnell. I am the Director of Government and Community Relations for MTA Construction and Development. I'm Andy's colleague counterpart over at C&D. We are handling the management of all of the capital projects. Historically, we had handled the mega projects when we were just MTA construction or capital construction. Since the transformation to construction and development, we are now managing and advancing all of our operating agency projects. So New York City Transit, Long Island Railroad, Metro North Railroad, bridges and tunnels, etc. You know, for the record, and just so you know, I'll run through this presentation, but then we'll stick around to take any questions you might have. To assist with the answering of some of those questions, we have our technical subject matter experts on the project team with us here today. We're joined by Mohammed Al Wakil, who is the project executive for the project, and Kamar Winter, who's the project manager. We also have Jane Rossman from the consultant community outreach team. So a full complement of subject matter experts for you tonight. With that, I'm going to share my screen. So let me make sure that everybody can see. Can everybody see my screen? Should have the title slide up.
We should be able to, yes.
Yep, it's great. Thanks.
Okay. So as Andy mentioned, we're here to speak to you tonight about the ADA accessibility upgrade to the southbound platform for the 8th Avenue N line, as well as some station improvements. This project is part of a larger accessibility upgrade bundle that will upgrade 8 stations throughout the city. There will be also, as part of this work, as well as, well, not so much this this particular station, but there's a lot more structural rehabilitation that will go on at some of the other stations, system upgrades. This is a design build contract. It was awarded in December of 2021. It is our second bundled project. We awarded a first bundle of 8 ADA stations in December of 2020. So that project got going in 2021, and this one is getting going in 2022. The contractor was given its notice to proceed, or their notice to proceed, in January of 2022. And then up until this point, the vast majority of their efforts have been to advance the design that we had put forth. As a design build project, we typically take those projects up to about a 30% design, and then it's incumbent upon the contractor to take it the rest of the way. We're hopeful that we will, be the beneficiaries of innovative thinking by the contractor to help us deliver these projects better, faster, and cheaper. The start of the project is that notice to proceed date, which was January of 2022. And the completion date for the overall umbrella project, that's all 8 stations, is September of 2024. I'll drill down a little bit deeper into this particular station, the 8th Avenue station's schedule, a little bit later on. So looking at the project as a whole, specifically the 8th Avenue station, which we're here to speak to you about tonight, as mentioned, we'll get 1 new elevator, and that'll be for the southbound platform, servicing the N train on the Sea Beach line. Also part of this project is the Woodhaven Boulevard station, which will see 2 new elevators for the J and Z on the Jamaica line. Westchester Square, which will get ADA elevators and station improvements. They're going to get 3 elevators for the 6 train. 181st Street will be getting new ADA elevators from the mezzanine to the platform. They're going to get 2 there for the A train. This project also has some elevator replacement elements to it. So Marcy and Flushing are going to get their existing elevators upgraded. And then Court Square will be getting 1 elevator for the Crosstown G, and Queensboro Plaza is going to get 2 elevators on the Astoria Flushing line for the 7, N, and W. Speaking specifically about the 8th Avenue line, as you all know, this is an open cut station on the Sea Beach line. It's located between 7th and 8th Avenues in Brooklyn. This station is currently only accessible in the Manhattan bound direction. We'll be improving the ADA components here by adding an elevator for the southbound side from the street to the platform. And then also there will be upgrades to the digital customer information screens. This is a schematic of the station. So right now, on the left-hand side of the screen, you see the mezzanine to street level. The lower portion of your screen, I'm not really quite sure what that color is. It's sort of like a light brown, cinnamon, we'll say, at the lower portion of your screen. That's where the new elevator is going to be located. If you look on the right on the platform level, that's where the new elevator will touch down at the platform. And then across the way on the northern portion of the screen, you see the existing EMR or elevator mechanics room and the existing elevator on the northbound side serving Manhattan bound traffic. This is an aerial view of the 8th Avenue station. So you see on the northbound side or on the Manhattan bound side on the north side of the station, the existing elevator poking its head above the cross passageway here. This blue box area at the end of the corridor here is where the new elevator is going to go. We'll show you in a little bit some of the staging and the laydown areas, which are largely going to be on the station's footprint here. So there's not a heck of a lot of impact outside of the station area. So speaking of that barricade plan, there is work areas on the platform. So the red areas on both the northbound or the Manhattan bound and the southbound side are shown in red here. We'll be working in part of that EMR room that I mentioned on the northbound side for upgrades to the mechanicals to operate the southbound elevator. There will also be a storage area there for tools and materials and things of that nature while the project is going on. You also have a storage area that will be occupied at all times for staging just outside the station in that area where that blue, you can't really see it too close here, but where the cursor is outlining is where that blue barricaded area was, just outside the corridor where the new elevator is going to go. So this is where a lot of the work is going to be going on for the erection of the elevator itself and the components of the elevator, as well as a storage and staging area. The barricades started going up at the beginning of the month on May 3rd, and work got underway within the station area on May 17th. Again, some of the station impacts, we just talked a little bit about that staging area and where the work will be taking place for the southbound elevator just outside the station area. So you can see that from the mezzanine to the street level on the left-hand side of the screen. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you see that same footprint, but at the platform level. And as I mentioned, across the tracks on the northbound side, the Manhattan-bound side, you have the work area that will be not only for storage of equipment, but for some of the work that we're going to have to do in the EMR room, that elevator room, the mechanics room on the other side. Andy, you want to talk about service impacts? I mean, I can sort of breeze through these, but obviously a bit more your vernacular than mine, if you wanted to touch on the service impacts.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So basically, as part of this project, we are going to have to do some service diversions associated. Not too many, but so right now we're saying 5 weekends. They are anticipated to begin this summer. Once we have a more definitive timetable, we'll certainly let you know with an email update on the actual dates. But as I said, we'll be getting them to you this summer, but it's going to be 5 weekends. The end is going to run along the D, south of 36th Street. And as always, we'll have signage up for our customers at the stations and on our website at new.mta.info. So more to come on the actual definitive information, nitty-gritty details. But we just wanted to let you know that not too much of service impact for this project, thankfully.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Andy. Yep. And as Andy mentioned, it's approximately 5 weekends from 10 p.m. on Friday through the startup of rush hour service on Monday morning for those outages, and a more detailed schedule to follow. So thank you, Andy. As far as schedule goes relative to the work, as I mentioned, work is getting underway with the erection of the barricades and some of the station work here in May. We will begin excavation for the elevator pit in May, and that'll take us out until September of 2022. Simultaneously, structural work for the skeleton of the elevator will take place from May of 22 through September of 22. And then in September, we really get into, you'll start seeing things. I think things will take shape during the structural work, but the elevator components will start getting installed in September of 2022. That lasts for approximately 6 months, taking us out through March of 2023. And the anticipated place in service of this elevator is the first quarter of 2023. So by the end of March is the goal here. This, Andy said this was going to be short. The schedule is relatively short, little under a year here, because the good news here is we only need to do one elevator. There is existing ADA accessibility on the northbound side, so almost half the work that we have to do in some of the other stations, in some cases a third. So a very compressed schedule here. So we get in and out of your hair quicker than in some cases. So like I said, while the overall schedule takes us out through 24, because of the compressed nature of things and only needing to do one elevator at this particular station, we get in and out of here by the first quarter of 2023. The project does have a dedicated email and hotline. This is a 24-hour email and hotline. It is not necessarily staffed 24/7. So I would urge you, if there were any serious concerns or emergency type of issues, to contact Melissa Farley, Andy, or myself. Between the three of us, we will certainly be able to get to the project team and alert them to any dangerous type of concerns. But for general, questions, information, even the, run-of-the-mill type of complaint, something that's not truly an emergency, you can use this email and this hotline. We do have a staff that monitors it and compiles all the data and gets it to us. And we do respond within 24 to 48 business hours for these things. But again, this is for your sort of typical just questions and answer type things. If it's an emergency, reach out to one of us GCR folks to make sure that we can get to the project team. And with that, Andy, I'll kick it back to you for any Q&A. I can leave the deck up if we needed to toggle between any of the schematics or the layouts here. Happy to do that. Also happy to take it down because I know sometimes it's hard to see questions or raising hands. So feel free to let me know, Jeremy, how you want me to handle.
Yeah, and Joe, just
or Zach.
follow up on that. Thanks a lot, Joe. Really appreciate it. And yeah, of CB7, of course. I mean, we had Melissa as the community relations rep, but of course, if you guys have any questions, you know where I am. So for sure. And then also, just letting you know that I'll be sending over this presentation to the community board after this meeting. So
Great.
that's it.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Joe. There's appreciate the brevity and cut to the point, and always happy to see more ADA compliant subway stations in our district. And this is great, and it looks like the timeline is going to be quicker than others, which is welcome news. Looking at these schematics, I'd like to stress that I do see no reason that there should be any disruption of traffic on 8th Avenue. It seems there, and knowing the station, there is plenty of space for all the construction staging off of 8th Avenue. As you guys know, it's two-way street, it's very active street. It cannot handle any construction disruption without that traffic will be felt for 20 or 30 blocks in either direction. So can't stress enough that all construction materials, staging, loading, all happens off of 8th Avenue, which I do believe there is plenty of space. And one thing I just like to throw out there, I know we always talk about 36th Street and elevators, and I just want to know if we can have an update on the progress there, when we can expect to see that happening. If the discussions with the cemetery, I know we were talking about space, creating space for elevators. That station, and then turn over to other board members.
Sure. Yeah. 36th Street is the other. I was going to mention that. Absolutely. Thanks for bringing it up, Zach. 36th Street is the other station within CB7 that is part of the 70 stations in the 2020 to 24 capital program. Right now it is in design. So we will be coming to the community board once we have more definitive information as far as the schedule, as far as the phasing. But it is in the 2020 to 24 capital program. It does have funding, and we are working on it internally, and we'll be coming to you guys once we have more to say on it. But yeah, we're very much looking forward. We know that,
and we understand, of course, there will be some traffic impacts there. That would be unavoidable. So yes, Jeremy, you can call whoever's got their hands up. You can call on board members, please.
Yeah.
So board members, please use the raise hand function. I see Cindy Vandenbosch with her hand up first. Cindy?
I also just wanted to celebrate that this is coming. So thank you for all your work on this. And I also wanted to mention that after 36th Street, I know our board members who live, especially in the Windsor Terrace section of the district, have been asking for 15th Street accessible subway station, which would also give access to people going to the park. And then we did put that as a community board on our capital budget request. So I just wanted to make sure that was, I understand it might not be on the list between now and 2024, but I wanted to flag it. And then I also, in a previous meeting, I think it was last year, Andy, you had mentioned the possibility of exploring, it's so expensive to use, to put elevators at every station, but we had also discussed the possibility or the desire for exploration of ramps where possible, especially the Fort Hamilton Parkway stations seem to be a good candidate for that. So I'm wondering if you have anything there. And last but not least, and this is actually going back to the presentation here, I'm wondering about other sort of accessible features that are going to be incorporated as you do this renovation, such as tactile guideways, floor markers, stair warnings, and things like that. And so if you could speak to that, that would be helpful. And sorry, one more thing. I'm sorry, there's so many, but one is Access-a-Ride on demand. This is something that we've discussed at some of our meetings, that there was concern that the on-demand service, the sort of program that's being prototyped right now, that somehow, there's concern that we really want to see that program continue so that people with disabilities, like while this station is impacted, could local residents use that Access-a-Ride on demand service and as an alternative to get from place to place, to get to work and meetings and things like that. So I'm sorry, I realize that's a lot, but please let me know if you have any questions of clarification.
So the first two, as far as Fort Hamilton is concerned, I remember you had brought that up at the last meeting. So right now, as you said, and rightfully so, right now the 2020 to 24 capital program has 70 stations. Brooklyn has the most, by the way, so we're thrilled about that. At least I am, as the Brooklyn rep. But yeah, the next 5-year plan is going to be 2025 to 2029, and it's being formulated right now. It will probably come out sometime in the latter part of 2024. We're certainly going to be, we certainly have a list, and the Fort Hamilton Parkway and 15th Street is certainly on the the list of community interest for sure. And as far as ramps are concerned, our engineers and our architects take a look at the land availability for all the stations that they're looking to possibly do ADA, and we put in ramps. The station we put in ramps most recently was the Avenue HQ station. So we completed the ramp to make the entire that station ADA accessible, and it's got a ramp now in both the Manhattan bound and the northbound direction. So, but yeah, we will definitely take a look at ramps. Ramps don't break down like the elevators. So, they're more durable. So yeah, we'll certainly keep that in mind for sure. The other questions regarding the as far as tactile strips, does the project team have any information regarding where the tactile strips are going to be?
Kumar, do you have,
yeah.
Mohammed? Sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Right. So as far as so the good thing about the 8th Avenue station, on the prior renewal, aside from all the station, all the ADA required work were performed with the exception of the southbound elevator. So as we speak right now, the existing platforms, the tactile warning strip are up to code, and the platform ADA urban boarding areas were constructed and approved and accepted by ADA compliance and the track department. So the station, it's primed for the taking. We just have to get this southbound elevator built, and it will be fully compliant.
Thank you. And then Andy, I don't know I think Cindy, the fourth question, if you will, was Access-a-Ride, right? I don't know, Andy, if you have any more information on Access-a-Ride.
And especially the on-demand service, right? Where obviously there's Access-a-Ride, and we know that that's accessible, but you have to put in your request far in advance versus Access Ride on Demand, which is a more, it's actually more accessible because you can do it, when you need transportation.
Sure. So unfortunately, we don't have our AAR colleagues on this call, but I can certainly, pick their brain tomorrow, and whatever information they give me, I can certainly report to the community board. I'll be more than happy.
That would be great, just as an alternative, especially for folks while this construction is underway. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have John DeLuper next.
All right, thank you. I want to echo the comments that Zach and Cindy made about the elevators. To me, my home station is 59th Street, and it's made a huge difference, that elevator there. So I salute you for continuing to add them throughout the system. I did have a couple questions related to your presentation and one follow-up. And the first, I'll put them all out there, and then you can answer them together, hopefully. So first, for the closure, was it in both directions or just the side where you're working on the elevator? And then for the barricades you mentioned, I remember hearing that the Transit Authority has some kind of new barricade that requires less slowdowns for flagging, so the trains don't get, as terrible on the weekends and evening. So are they the newer type that allows for that, or are they the traditional kind where, they still have to slow things down, especially overnight and on the weekends? And then the final one was, in terms of the additional things, when you guys presented about 59th Street, one of the accessibility upgrades for there was to be a ADA accessible bathroom. And my question was, if you have any data on whether that was done. I know with the pandemic, all the bathrooms are closed. We haven't been able to check. And on that note, if you had any data on when when all bathrooms system-wide will reopen. So happy to repeat any of those if I went a little too fast, and I'll turn it over to you guys. Thank you.
I can answer you
Go ahead, Andy.
first, because that's the one I remember. I'm sorry. I was trying to grab note paper when you were asking the question. So I apologize.
So question one was relative to the service disruption. Is it going to be in both directions or just the southbound direction where the elevator is going to be going in? And I don't know if you have the answer to that, Andy, but.
Andy, I could take that if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's five outages. 3 will be on the southbound side and 2 on the northbound. And the purpose of that is as Joe showed the picture, the existing machine room for the elevator is on the northbound side. So we need those closures or outages in order to run the hydraulic line and other electrical feeds from the elevator machine room over to the new southbound elevator. So we're phasing it where we, instead of shutting down, and that's a huge interruption to customers, we're doing say half at a time or 2/3 at a time. So when we have our outages, you will have service going in one direction, and the N train will be for the side that we have shut down will be diverted to the D line.
And then Kimar, while you have the mic, literally and figuratively, John was asking about the barricades. I'm not familiar with the distinction between the old barricades and new barricades that are less disruptive to service. Do you know what the plan is here and the configuration of the barricades?
Not sure about the slowdown, but the barricade that we have installed currently are per Office of System Safety requirements, and they have at least 5 feet clearance from the edge of the platform. So it shouldn't require any slowdown or impacts on train.
I didn't want to speak out of school, John, but I think obviously by nature of the significant or the insignificant number of disruptions, and it's largely to pull those cables and do that work that we need to do, and that's why there's only 5, and they're toggling between the north and southbound side. Those work zones are going to be there much longer than those 5 weekends, obviously, while we do this work. So not personally knowing the distinction between the old barricade and the new barricade, and the location of these barricades being so far off of the platform themselves, they certainly aren't going to be disruptive to the service outside of when we have to otherwise disrupt the service anyways to do the work that we need to do. So I think that answers your question by default, but I personally am going to look into the distinction between the old barricades and the new barricades, just so I know. And then Andy, the last or third question, I think, John, it may not have been your last, but it certainly was the third, was relative to bathroom closures and when
Right.
those are going to be coming back online.
Yeah. So, and John, to answer your question, yes, as part of the 59th Street and our ADA project, the customer bathroom was made ADA accessible. So that's the good news. The bad news is that, since the pandemic, as everyone knows, we have closed our customer bathrooms. There's no definitive schedule for reopening them. I know we were just talking about the fact that, COVID has raised its head again and, the numbers are tending to go up now. But so no definitive word, but we will certainly let everyone know, once we do have a plan to reopen the customer bathrooms. But once you can rest assured that once the 59th Street and our station bathroom is reopened, it will be ADA accessible because it was made ADA accessible during that project.
I'm glad to hear. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sorry to jump in. ADA accessibility, is that we have ADA accessible bathrooms are part of the 8th Avenue project as well? That's what was done previously that Kamar alluded to? That's part of it being up to code?
No, because 8th Avenue doesn't have customer bathrooms.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Can I, Zach, if I may, I just want to go back to John's question regarding the old barricades. John, were you referring to like the 8-foot, whether this station was going to have the 8-foot blue barricades that you see on like you saw at 59th Street? Was that what you were referring to?
My question was, I remember reading, and I think this was way at the beginning of the pandemic, that the Transit Authority had looked into how much that construction was slowing down the trains. So they had invested in new types of barricades so that they could safely have workers without having to have as many people on the tracks, stopping trains and slowing them down. And that there were like certain, maybe it was the like you said, the 8-foot tall ones. I wasn't sure. I figured you guys would know. So that's why I asked that.
We'll get to as many details as possible on them.
All right, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think
I
Cindy
have
put her
Cindy-
hand back up. Yeah.
Yep, I have Cindy Vandenbosch, and then I have a couple of service-related questions. Cindy?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I have one question. I know that there was an accessibility advisory committee that was formed for New York City Transit, and I'm wondering if you're still convening with those advisors, if those are open public meetings and or if there are reports where we could just learn about, how you're working with that advisory committee, if that's still sort of an active group. And so just a brief update about that would be really helpful. And then I also wanted to, I know this is a real challenge because we have a huge subway system, but it can be so challenging to hear the announcements. Oops, we're seeing somebody's email. You might want to pull your, there we go. Hearing access is a real challenge really for anyone who's in a station. Especially for someone who has a cochlear implant or a hearing aid or just has hearing loss. And I know that you prototyped in one of the stations a hearing loop, and that historically some of the service booths had hearing loop technology that where you could hear the station agent, but now the issue is that there aren't station agents in as many stations. And so I'm just wondering on the side of hearing access, if there's any, if that's something that you're working on. So those are the two things, the advisory committee and sort of now the absence of station agents makes it actually harder for a lot of people who really want to communicate with a station agent in order to get support or guidance, not just people who need hearing access.
Well, just to clarify, Cindy, there still are station agents at every one of our stations. They might not be able to perform cash transactions at this time, but there's at all 472 subway stations, there is a human presence on at least one side of the, at one side of the station agent booth.
Right. But I guess the distinction, and Joan Body, if she's still on the call, can step in here, but I guess, sorry, thank you for correcting me. But it is the fact that during COVID, they weren't they weren't coming out to assist. There weren't staff that were assisting people if they needed support, for example, using getting a card or out in the station. Are the service agents, have there been cutbacks on that or no? Am I just?
The station agent booths, there's at least one station agent booth staff person at every subway station at all times, at least one, depending on complex, but their job description and the job performance, what they do has changed since COVID. I mean, for example, they're not able to do cash transactions at this time. All cash transactions have to be done at the MVM machines in the station, which are usually very, very close to the station agent booths.
Right.
So.
Okay. So the basically, like, the fundamental change there is that there isn't like the cash exchange. Is there any way in which their job descriptions have changed significantly aside from that as a result of COVID?
No, I mean, that's the major job description change.
Okay.
As far.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Cindy, I stopped sharing because I was actually looking to see if the chat function was open. I was going to drop in the link to the evaluation criteria that goes into selecting stations, but Andy or I, when Andy gets back to the board on some of the outstanding things we're going to look into, can also provide that. But there is a criteria that's utilized, sort of a checklist of things that get, the different criteria that gets weighed to evaluate, and public participation is part of that. So as we approach the next capital plan, there will be a 20-year needs assessment that goes into evaluating where we are system-wide, where the needs are, and that helps to inform the 5-year capital plan. So typically there will be, in the run-up to the development of that 5-year capital plan, another public engagement to get feedback on where folks would want to see accessibility upgrades prioritized. So.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And just on a related note, any update that you have on the accessibility advisory committee that was formed a couple of years ago, is that still active? And are we able to see the access reports or anything related to the convenings of that group?
I'll have to get an update from my colleagues who are on the system-wide accessibility at the MTA, and I can get that to you.
Thank you so much. We'd really appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you. I have Gabino Morales next.
Yes. Hi. How's it going, guys? Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Jeremy, and everyone on CB7 for welcoming me into the committee. I appreciate the MTA also being here. I'm not sure if this is the correct forum for me to be asking this question, but I did have a question on cameras for 36th Street and every other stations here in Brooklyn, if they are functioning correctly and working as supposed.
You're correct in that this is not the appropriate forum for that. We've responded many times, regarding the incident, and I would refer you to our statements in the press that came out shortly after the April 12th incident. So if there's any more information in the future regarding it, we will certainly notify the elected officials of the committee boards, and I will be the one who's doing that. So if there's any more information that we've said in the past in the press, we will certainly pass that on.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. Thank you.
But who is responsible for the upkeep of those cameras? Is that the PD or is it the MTA?
It's really MTA working with NYPD.
MTA working with NYPD. Okay, so it is we appreciate your answer, but this is the correct forum. I mean, we have you guys here, and it's on everybody's mind. So
Well,
It's,
I understand. It's if it's the correct form, it's not something that is on the agenda.
I understand, but it falls under MTA privy. Are there any other questions about this presentation?
So Zach, I have a couple, there aren't any other hands up, but I have a couple of service-related questions regarding this project.
That sounds perfect.
When do you expect signs to go up about the weekend closures?
Kamara, do you want to take that? Kamara, can you hear us?
So yes, I was on mute, but within I'm trying to remember the exact time, but there's a typical timeline that these are posted once we have the dates confirmed for the outages. It's usually within 1 or 2 weeks those get
Right.
posted to let customers know about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first course of action is finalizing that with geo schedule or the outage schedule. Yeah.
Will
Yeah,
there
that's
be, sorry.
Kamara. Yeah, but yes, Kamara is correct. We usually try to get notices up in the stations and on our website at least 1 to 2 weeks in advance. Yep.
will they be in multiple languages?
Yes, languages. We have the languages that are required for that station, and we'll be posting in multiple languages. Yep.
Will they be posted in stations other than 8th Avenue?
I can double check on that, but normally we, yes, because of the nature of that particular general order, we would certainly need to let other people know along the line what service pattern is. So yes, the answer is yes.
Are you planning on offering any sort of shuttle service during the station closure?
Kamar, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I think for these, it's just basically we're going to be directing people to take the N via the D for this. So
yes,
I don't.
That's correct. The shuttle usually comes in when it's an all-track outage.
And just to clarify, the train is just going to be bypassing 8th Avenue. It's not going to be terminating at 36th or 59th Street.
So the train it won't be on the end line, right? So it's I wouldn't really call it bypassing, because on a multi-track system it could mean it just passes the station along. So
But
at 39th Street it will go
my point
via
is
a
it will be
different line.
continuing on to Coney Island.
That's correct.
Yes, but via the D line.
Yes.
I just want to make sure we don't lose our connection to Coney Island during the summer.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. Zach, I see no additional hands up.
Okay. No other questions. I'd like to thank the MTA. You guys, thank you very much for coming and the presentation. Please send the file along to us so we can have that available for our committee report, as well as posting on the website. And we'll definitely put up the page with the list of contacts on the website, so people will know who they can reach out to. Thank you again for your time. We always appreciate you guys coming.
I'm sorry, Zach.
Yes.
John DeLuper has his hand up. I believe he had another question. He asked if he could ask tonight.
No.
Sure.
I had some questions, some old business. I did ask my question, which was about the bathrooms at 59th Street, but I had some old business for after the transit people. Sorry.
Okay, so without further ado, I guess that MTA, thank you so much. You guys are welcome to stick around and listen to our old business, or sign off, whatever you would like. And
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Cindy.
Bye, guys. See you soon.
Good to see you again.
All right, thank you.
Yes, John.
All right.
Old business.
So this weekend they had at 2nd Avenue and 58th Street the grand opening for the Owl's Head connector. That made me wonder whatever happened to the upland connectors that they presented here a couple years ago. There was supposed to be one at 2nd Avenue and 58th Street going from 1st to 2nd Avenue. That part, to my knowledge, nothing has begun on that part, which was a different project. And I also, on a related note to that, noticed that at 59th Street and 6th Avenue, last year, ACOM presented to us about some raised crosswalks that they were going to do. I don't know if that was this year or before. I didn't see it on DOT's thing. And then finally, it's going to be, this is something that came up years ago. I think, and I could be wrong, so please correct me if I am, that this committee years ago got the signal timing at the 60th Street and 3rd Avenue intersection changed from 40 seconds to 50 or maybe a minute. I noticed the other day that it is 40 seconds for 9 lanes, and that's a very difficult crossing. So the answer to these may all be John, follow up with Jeremy and see if there's updates on that. But I figured to bring it to this committee and see if any of you had thoughts or if there's any other, whether we as a committee needed to have DOT or follow up or anything like that.
No, those are good questions. The upland, let's start with the upland connectors. I think we are overdue for a meeting with our friends with the DOT's Division of Bicycling. There are several upland connectors that we've talked about, and they would be nice to have an update on their much neglected portions of the greenway in our neighborhood and where we stand with that. And also there's several upland connectors that just need to happen, and we're stepped aside because of various motivated people. I mean, there are at least a half a dozen that should be in existence in this neighborhood. As far as the crosswalk, maybe Jeremy knows the exact time. I can't remember it being changed to 50 seconds or a minute. It is 40 seconds is a hurried pace to get across those 9 lanes. I mean,
yeah, that's something we need to revisit. John, let's you and I talk tomorrow, and we could go over each of these issues.
Okay.
But I would invite each of these issues. I would invite for a future transportation meeting, because they're all well within the time to revisit them, because nothing's happened.
Okay, cool.
And you had 3 questions, or did we miss one?
No, those were my 3. Was the upland connector, the raised crosswalks, and the
crosswalks.
which is from last year, but like you said, we can revisit that, and then the intersection timing. So okay,
well,
cool.
I mean, hopefully they're resurfacing 3rd Avenue as we speak. So let's see if something happens there, and then if nothing has happened, if there's no change to any crosswalks, which there probably won't be, then then we should revisit that.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Any other old business from anyone?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this falls under old business, but I just wanted to bring up and put on the list of to-dos, which is that, do you know whether there's been an increase in bus service on the B63 or B70 lines? I know they were reduced, and they were both capital budget requests, and I just wanted to follow up to see if you or Jeremy have heard or know whether more frequent service has been introduced, especially during school rush hours.
Andy would have been the man to ask. But
we did get a response. I wish you had asked a little earlier.
Sorry.
Andy here. But we did get a response to our capital requests. I don't remember those specifically, but I have them in my office. If you, in general, most of our requests were denied. I don't remember those specifically, though. So if you give me a call tomorrow, I'm more than happy to tell you what those are.
Okay, and then one other thing that I just wanted to coordinate with the Transportation Committee is whether we want to do an update on curb cuts and accessible intersections in the neighborhood, and or if that could be a joint meeting between Ability and Access and Transportation. And that's been something we've been wanting to do for some time. And now that they've kind of, I don't know, we'd like to do.
That's I think it's a great
yeah.
idea. And it would be great to have an update on what they've accomplished because they've talked about it a lot. We all know that there's a lot they haven't done. They've talked about how much and so it'd be great to have a nice consolidated update of what they actually have done. These raised crosswalks would be something that would fit into that, go with that perfectly. I think that that's a great meeting. Let's try to get it in June before everybody goes on vacation. The DOT goes on vacation. We just maybe see what we can talk in the next couple of days and set something up with the DOT and get a real concise update on all these projects because we've done a lot of lip service and they've done some, but let's see if they can have a real breakdown of exactly where they are. I think would be time well spent. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my opinion. Gabino, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Zach.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to ask to see if regarding the cameras on 36th Street, I know we couldn't get much answers today with the MTA, but how would we be able to possibly get those answers if anybody knows anything about the cameras?
So those answers, those answers actually were in the media. There were extensive articles about it, about what MTA says occurred and the fact that they have been repaired. There are quite a number of details. If you reach out to me, I'm happy to get you one of these articles. And if you have questions beyond that, we can follow up.
That's awesome, Jeremy. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
And I want to stress, like, to use this position on this committee, you have the MTA there. Don't you unapologetically ask them a question about anything that is under their purview. They hold them accountable. Doesn't matter if they're prepared for this question or not. They can come back and give us the answer. You never have to feel like you have to apologize for asking something that they may not be under their purview or they may not be prepared for. This is
absolutely.
If it's important to you, it's important to the community.
Zach, I appreciate that. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And so any other questions? If not, I'm going to say good night. Thank you guys all for being here as always. And have a great evening.
All right. Thank you. See you all later.
Thank you.
Good evening, guys.
Bye.